Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. I know some of you have been asking when the next Templar build is going to be for my Iron Man Knights Templar mashup, and I've kind of just been putting it off. I got busy with a couple of other projects that I've been working on, and I kind of hit a snag with not having a sewing machine and needing to sew some stuff. So we're going to tackle that today. I am going to work on the tunic for the Knights Templar build. So we're going to add trim, add some other little details like on the sides, and probably put another little decorative trim, and definitely have to add a cross and a couple other things. So that's the game plan. I bought this, and it's cheesy and see-through, and it's garbage. So we're gonna make a better one. Today we are building a tunic for my Knights Templar Iron Man mashup. Let's get to building. After my total disappointment from my Amazon purchase, I scoured the internet for some authentic garbs. I stumbled upon a website called Medieval Collectibles, which I'll link to in the description below if you're interested. They're a wholesaler of legit historical recreations. I bought several things from them, one of which being this tunic. I think technically I bought a surcoat, but from what I found, they're similar. Both can be various lengths, materials, sleeves, no sleeves, etc. The main distinction is that a tunic is technically underclothing and a surcoat is covering over armor. Since my armor is not over the cloth, I'm saying it's a tunic. I'm probably wrong, but it's all good. I am not an expert. My original idea was to sew this red double-folded bias trim around the edges. I don't own a real sewing machine and thought I could get away with this little handheld thing. I quickly found out that I don't know what I'm doing. So the project sat for about a month untouched. I had a conversation with a coworker at school, and he said that his wife could do this easily in an hour or two, so I passed it on to her. I wanted to leave this in so that you could see it's okay to have setbacks and not understand how to do something. Don't be afraid to reach out to others who can help, and maybe I need to buy a real sewing machine and watch some YouTube videos to educate myself. I got back my tunic, and I think Mrs. May did an awesome job. I could have bought a pre-done tunic, but would have had to compromise on what I wanted and spend a lot more money. This option saved me money and allowed me to customize it to my exact specifications. Next step, I made a cross pattern for the chest on poster board, traced it onto a cheap 99-cent bandana, and then cut it out.
Remember, I don't sew, so I bought some fusible web adhesive to iron it on instead. I probably could have used strips of this stuff for the trim, but sewing it was probably a better idea for the edges, since it would see a little bit more wear and tear and stress, whereas the decorative thing in the middle of my chest isn't going to see much action. I ironed the cross flat. Then I ironed the web adhesive onto it for me to trim the excess off. I fold the tunic in half to get my midline and then iron on a temporary crease to help me line my cross up. Once I'm happy with the position, I iron it on with a little steam and pressure. I tried it on first with my gorget to make sure that the positioning was just right as far as where I had to kind of put the cross. The waist seam line will be where the belts are worn, so I didn't want it to go down too far. So that's the area that I'm centering it in, and that's kind of where I put it. Since my work table inside is glass, I went outside for the next step. I added some grommets to the side under my armpits. This will serve two purposes. It'll give a nice added detail that makes it different than the traditional Templar tunics, and it will also allow me to pull laces through it, which will better taper fit to my waist. I bought a little grommet kit from the hardware store and followed the instructions. Simply just punch out the fabric with a punch, then switch over to the plate provided to allow the grommets to bend on itself rather than dent it in. I made a quick template to space everything out on both sides, and I added this piece of wood here at the end because my table was not sturdy enough to take the impact of the hammer. For my lace on the sides, I'm using some red paracord. Cut it to the length that you need and burn the ends to melt the fibers together so it won't unravel. I tried a couple of different ways, settled on a cross pattern, and laced them up like shoelaces. I'm really starting to like the way these added details look. For an even more unnecessary detail to make it further from historically accurate, I decided to add this braided banding. I'm gonna go even simpler with adhering it to the fabric and just hot glue it. I think it's good enough as far as the grip for both of the materials to make a good bond. I glue down a little bit at a time and work my way across the bottom edge. I also go ahead and do the neck and the armholes while I'm at it to add an extra detail that will not be seen when all the armor is put on. Now on to the weathering. I could do a number of ways: paints, actual dirt, tea staining, etc. I decided to use some instant coffee and some random spices. Clove is a nice smell and it's got kind of a dirt look. I also pulled some turmeric from the spice cabinet for a different shade of kind of yellowish. I mixed them in some hot water and brushed it on. It got a bit messy, so I moved to the grass outside to let myself be able to fling stuff everywhere and not tick my wife off by staining the carpet even more than it already is. The great thing about using coffee and spices is it makes the tunic smell good instead of like dirt or paint or chemicals. Warning: fire. I am torching little bits to put holes and weather it even more. I did most of this outside but wanted to put it on camera so that you could see it. I heat up small little areas and then you use a wet paper towel to kind of put it out and rip the fabric up. I have a fire extinguisher and a fire blanket in arm's reach and would recommend doing this outside and take the necessary precautions. Different fabrics burn differently, so torch at your own risk. I also roughed up some areas with sandpaper to give more worn out patches in certain areas. To add just a little more darkness in a couple of spots, I dabbed on some acrylic paint. To vary it up and hide obvious brush strokes, I just wet down areas with a wet paper towel. I'm close to being done with this cosplay. I still need to make the scabbard for my sword and put together some accessories to finish off the look. So I have at least 2 builds left and then maybe a reveal video. I'm thinking maybe even getting a photographer and doing a photo shoot. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty awesome. I know that most of you realize after watching my channel for a while that I don't like making things nice and pretty and clean. I like for my props and my stuff to be battle worn and all kinds of dirty and dingy, so I went in and added stuff. And I know a lot of people suggest like, hey, you could use real dirt to get that same effect. True, but then my stuff smells like dirt. This smells like coffee and turmeric, which is pretty pleasant. So maybe you will try and make a custom tunic yourself to fit a mashup that you are making and be super proud of the way it turned out and may just wear it around the neighborhood as you walk your dog. Oh, it's gonna happen.
Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're gonna ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these, tell them, much props. I'll let you try it on if you want. You just gotta lift your hands up over your head. Alright. Alright, here you go. Yeah. Suck in, suck in.
If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to continue to see epic builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.